Welcome back to the Taiwanology podcast. This is your host, Kwangyin from CommonWealth magazine in Taiwan. And today we're talking about a rather heavy but very important topic. In late December, the U.S. Customs and Border Protection shocked Taiwan's manufacturing sector with an unprecedented move. For the first time ever, a Taiwanese company, bicycle maker Giant Manufacturing, was hit with a Withhold Release Order, WRO, which means they are banning its products from entering the U.S. because of alleged forced labor practices, which means that Giant could lose merchandise worth more than $1 billion this year. It's a wake-up call not just for Giant, but for Taiwan's entire export sector. The case exposes a widening gap between Taiwan's labor laws and international human rights standards, and it forces manufacturers to confront questions about how migrant labor is managed within global supply chains. To help us understand what's really at stake, we're joined today by CC Wu. She's a customs and trade consultant at PwC. Before joining PwC in Taiwan, she spent a decade in Southeast Asia managing logistics, compliance, and ESG for a major Taiwanese footwear manufacturer, and overseeing factories in Vietnam, Cambodia, and Myanmar. So we will talk about how a WRO works and what this means for Taiwan's manufacturing sector going forward. Welcome to the studio, CC.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Okay, good. Good to have you. So this is a rather complicated topic, and I would say pretty unique for Taiwan. Can you first explain to people who are unfamiliar with the subject, what is a WRO? What does it do?
Okay, WRO full name is Withhold Release Order, and it's related to Tariff Act Section 304. It means your product is related to forced labor.
Okay. And which means that if I, for example, if I'm Giant, I receive this order, it means I can no longer sell my products to the US.
Your product is no longer can enter US because it right now detained by the CBP. You can decide to re-export or to hold this unless maybe you can petition clean yourself. Your product is not made of forced labor.
Okay.
But if Customs later issue the finding, then they will detain the goods. Then you can no longer to re-export.
Okay. I think a lot of people would really be wondering, isn't Taiwan a great place of democracy? We have the highest standards of human rights. Why would the products, any products made in Taiwan, be associated with forced labor?
According to the Customs press release about the Giant, it demonstrates the first is the debt bondage and living,
Okay, what does debt bondage mean?
Debt bondage usually deals with
migrant
workers because they need to pay a lot of fee to come to Taiwan. So it means before they come to Taiwan, they are already under debt.
Oh, okay. So according to what I heard, I did some interviews before I did a story on forced labor last year. I think a Vietnamese worker to be able to get a job in Taiwan, any factory working at a bike assembly line or anything like that, one has to pay as much as $6,000. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, that's the figure I heard.
Yeah, that's a lot of money because $6,000 would be equivalent to maybe a few years of their salary.
I think in Ho Chi Minh right now, they make about, if for the workers, I'm not sure about the minimum wage right now, but I think it's about 10,000 NT, but there's still a lot of money, for US 6,000 more than 1 year.
So it means $6,000 would be equivalent to maybe 1 year and a half of an average salary that a Vietnamese person would get. So that is where this risk of debt bondage comes from. Right? So it means that for migrant workers to work in Taiwan, they have to be in a lot of debt. And why is that a unique case for Taiwan? So for example, bikes made in China or Vietnam or Cambodia, why are they not subject to the risk of forced labor?
They don't have migrant workers issue. Doesn't mean they don't have forced labor issue, but I think they will deal with different forced labor issue. Yeah,
right, I see. So I think Taiwan's situation is unique because we have a majority of the workers working in factories are in fact migrant workers. From my reporting, I think what I found was that 1 in 6 factory workers is a migrant worker here, and most of them are coming to Taiwan via a brokerage system, means almost all of them had to pay an exorbitant amount of broker fees. And that's why the workers in Taiwan are associated with forced labor.
Yeah, their bondage. But in Asia, like Malaysia and Thailand, they also have migrant workers. So Malaysia, they also have, some of the company also have received the WRO. There are also some cases like that.
Mm-hmm. Yes. But I think most people would be so surprised to hear that this is happening to Taiwan, right? And what does the giant need to do now if they want to have their products released by the customs?
They need to petition and take remedies. Means they already improve the violation that customs accuse.
I see. Remedy means that they have to pay back the broker fees to the workers?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
That would be a lot of money.
And according to Giant Press, in fact, from this year, they already announced none of the migrant workers need to pay, but that would be not enough.
Right.
So I think the latest press, they already extend that scope to all the current workers. But I also not sure it's enough because, like I said, Malaysia, they have several cases like that. And there's a case, the company called Top Glove. Mm-hmm. They not only pay the current staff, but also some past staff. So we will see how the custom will be satisfied with the giant if they are not satisfied with only the current staff. Yeah.
Wow. That means giants would have to shell out a lot of money going forward.
But I think that's better than their supply chain disrupt.
Huh, okay.
Also impact their stock price.
Right. That's true.
Yeah.
Stock price really fell a lot after this order was out. And I think a question that a lot of companies in Taiwan would have in their mind is that I think a lot of them feel really unfair because they are just following Taiwanese laws, right? Because the broker system for migrant workers has existed for decades. It has worked really well. And whenever they need migrant workers, they go to the brokers. And also our labor law say that the workers can pay their broker monthly service fees. This is all written down in the law. I'm following Taiwanese law here. Why is that not enough?
Because they violate the international standards.
Okay. Who made the international standards?
The U.S. Customs follow the International Labor Organization's standard.
ILO.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Can you walk us through the ILO? There's
11 standard.
Yes, the index of 11 indicators for forced labor, right? And one of them is debt bondage, which we talked about. And what are the other indications?
Okay. Abuse of vulnerability. This also giant was accused.
Abuse?
Yeah, because they think they abuse they are in a more weak position. So they take advantage of that.
Oh, okay. I see.
Restriction of movement.
Okay, so like if we impose curfews on migrant workers, that would count as restriction. And I do think a lot of factories would do that, right? They have dormitories and then say you cannot go out. Okay, so that's one indicator of forced labor.
And also retention of identity document. I think
passports, holding their passports. But when I talk to the labor authorities in Taiwan, they would tell me that, okay, yes, this has happened a lot before, but it has really improved because now the labor ministry, they say that this is not allowed. So they would say, okay, we have told all the companies not to do that. But is it still happening? Retention of passports?
Not in giant case, but I think maybe many Taiwanese companies, they still hold it.
Why would they still do that?
They afraid the migrant will run away.
Oh.
Yeah.
So this mentality of being afraid that workers would run away is equivalent to keeping slaves. right? That's why it's problematic, right?
You can say that.
Yeah, because I think if my employer keeps my passports because they don't want me to change jobs, I don't think I would be too happy about that.
No, I don't think so.
So some companies are still doing that. Okay, so this kind of tells me that what's stipulated in Taiwanese legal infrastructure, there's a gap between that and the international standards. Why is there a gap?
That's a very good question. I think the government don't think they need to change. I also think there's a lot of interest in this system.
In the brokerage system.
Yeah.
Right. So I think a big question that I would like to ask is, why would Taiwan have a broker system so unique like this? How was it introduced in the beginning?
That's a good question.
A very big issue.
A very big issue.
Yeah.
I've read the history because at that time there's a labor shortage.
You mean this is like 40 years ago, right?
I'm not sure is it like a left far, but maybe about, around that time.
Okay. Yeah. So there was labor shortage, and I think at that time, Taiwan really needed a lot of construction workers and factory workers. And for some reason, the system of a broker system was introduced. And now there's so much entrenched interest in the broker system, and it's really hard to eliminate that profit, I think. So, well, we're going to take a short break here. And when we come back, we will continue our conversation with Cici, and we'll try to find the way out for the Taiwanese manufacturing sectors. Welcome back to Taiwanology. In our studio today is Cici Wu, a trade compliance consultant at PwC, and we're talking about the forced labor risks that's happening to the bike maker Giant in Taiwan, and also a lot of Taiwanese companies that are also in panic mode right now. So we talked about the so-called forced labor risks, and that's because of a unique situation that Taiwan has. But what would be the solution if you are advising a company like Giant, which has received a WRO, a Withhold Release Order? What would you advise them do right now?
First, pay all the workers the recruit fee.
Okay, recruitment fees.
Yeah, that's for sure. And according to the violation, to take remedy improvement. Yes.
Right. So pay all of them for all the current workers, and maybe also the past workers in the past few years, maybe depending on how far back you want to go.
Yeah.
So pay all those fees. And what's the logic here? Why should a company shoulder all the costs for recruiting?
I think that's similar for you. If you hire white-collar workers from the headhunter, you also need to pay the fee.
So the logic is that all the costs that were generated in the recruitment processes, like looking for people and maybe visa fees, relocation fees, an employer would have to shoulder all the costs, and rather than transferring to the workers.
That's true. Yeah.
Right. I think Giant is already deciding to do that, to pay all the fees, a remedy. But that would mean their costs of hiring and the labor costs would skyrocket starting this year.
Yep.
Okay. And how are they going to survive after this?
I think that's, for me, if I need to choose my supplier, I would choose the supplier that I don't need to worry. Like they have compliance. I don't need to worry if I order the goods from them and my goods would be detained by the U.S. Customs.
Okay, I see. So you're saying that if you are a customer in the U.S., you would choose your suppliers, the most responsible suppliers that are not subject to the WRO?
To be honest, I wouldn't think that much. But I also don't want the union to be on the, on the forced labor issue, because I feel bad. But when I'm a consumer, I don't really know that much about all the supply chain factory, but if I watch the news, and I will be unhappy that the bike I rode, they have forced labor issue, Yeah.
I see. Yeah, so I think this issue of forced labor and WRO is really creating a big impact on the Taiwanese manufacturing sector, I think a lot of other brands, including Merida, which is also a bike manufacturing company in Taiwan, a major one, they have also announced that they will do remedy of reimbursement of broker fees to their migrant workers. So do you think this is going to be a norm going for Taiwanese companies exporting to the US?
I would say this is the compliance cost they need to consider, or they are exposed on the risk. Their supply chain will disrupt, their goods will be detained by the US customs. And I think the Taiwanese bike sector, they need to take more attention, because for top glove case
in Malaysia,
in 2 years, I think there are 5 similar cases in the same sector that detained by the US customs. So yeah, right now all the Taiwan bike industry, they are under high risk, I would say.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. But is the US market the only market we have to consider? Because I think Taiwanese bikes, they also export a lot into Europe. And what's the situation in Europe? There's also going to be a corporate sustainability due diligence mechanism going to be introduced in the next few years, right?
Yeah, but they also passed the forced labor regulation last year and will be executed in 2027.
In 2 years.
Yep.
Right. Which means that whether Taiwanese manufacturers, if you're exporting to the US or a European Union, we have to make sure that we don't associate ourselves with forced labor risks.
In fact, this is a global trend. So not only EU, not only US, but also like Canada and I think Australia and Germany. Yeah. And many countries, they have similar regulations.
So nowhere to escape.
Yep.
So I guess a lot of Taiwanese manufacturers, not only bikes, but also other components, they need to change their mentality right now. But how about in the electronics sector? Why are they not associated with forced labor risks?
They already implement that they call zero. They already implement
zero fees.
Yeah, zero fee, that policy.
Why? Since when?
I think for the past decade, because they also aware this risk.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So what I have learned in my story last year is that there's an organization called Responsible Business
RBA
Alliance. Yes, RBA.
Yeah. Yes.
So an RBA is an alliance. I think that
electronic organization like the Apple, Dell. Yes.
Right. So there's Apple and Amazon, all these tech companies. So in other words, if a Taiwanese company is a supplier to these tech companies, they would have been subjected to RBA rules for over a decade.
Yeah. Yes, that's true.
Yeah. So I guess the lesson here is that if the RBA companies could do it, there's no excuse for other companies not to do it.
But they also make more money. They also have more responsibility.
So I guess that's the hurdle, right?
Yeah.
Because the tech supply chain is more profitable.
That's also might be the reason they need to do it. Their higher responsibility. Yeah.
I see. Yeah. So in other words, first is the RBA supply chain, the tech supply chain. Now this trend has been extended to all supply chain. So it's not just your tech goods, but your bikes or maybe hand tools or clothes, shoes, everything. We have to make sure that we eliminate forced labor risks.
If you don't want your good detained by US customs.
Right. So the knife is going to drop anytime. But then when I talk to the companies in Taiwan, they also feel very unfair because constantly they're asked by their customers to lower the prices, but they have to shoulder even more responsibilities and pay higher costs. Is it really fair to expect the manufacturers to shoulder all the costs? Can the clients share some responsibilities?
The truth is reality bites. We don't live in the fairy tales. Just like we are customers, when we go to the market, we like to buy something a reasonable price, both, so they don't have any issue for compliance. Yeah, but that's about how competitive, how capable for your company. But you need to survive first.
So there is no easy way out.
No, but I would say this is just like ESG, this is the trade, this is the future. So if you want to be competitive in the market, this is the cost you need to be think of. And this is also when your client want to choose a supplier, they will think about this issue.
I see. That's the reality. That's a brutal reality.
Yep.
Right. But this topic of responsible recruitment, in which an employer pays all the recruitment fees for the worker, it sounds like a lot of burden. Are there really going to be employers who would willingly do that for their workers?
Yes, Kwangyin, I would like to share a true story just happening this Monday. Last Saturday, I met a friend. Her husband was sick, had a stroke, so they also hire Indonesia domestic workers. And last Saturday, because he also a lawyer, so we talk about joint case about forced labor. And this Monday morning, I received her text. She said, "Oh, Cici, I think that I also need to share the cost of my Indonesia's workers' recruitment fee because this is also considered forced labor."
Oh.
So she said she want to bear some cost of her. So I was really touched because what I say, and when she learned about this as a forced labor, she also want to share the cost of her domestic worker.
Right. So in other words, really words have impact and change people's behavior. And because they learned the mechanisms behind a recruitment process and principles of forced labor, and they felt that it was the right thing to do.
Yes.
And you said you also contributed to some of the costs.
Yeah. Because I think this is, she made this decision because of me.
You feel responsible.
Yep. And I also feel honored to take some of the, contribution to share the cost.
Right. I think going forward, we really need more employers to feel that way.
Yep.
So I guess the last question would be, if we are looking ahead, what lessons should Taiwan's manufacturing sector take from this incident?
Recruitment fee, this is illegal. Even it's compliant with local laws, it violates international standards.
So keep that in mind and maybe learn from RBA alliance companies and see how they did it, and you just try to follow what they did.
Yeah, and follow the best practice and your industry standards.
I see. Okay. And well, this would not be an easy task, I imagine.
No, it's very difficult.
Sure. I see. And very costly. So thank you, Cici, for coming to the studio today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Okay. I would like to say that Giant's case isn't just about one company, but it's a wake-up call for all of Taiwan's exporters to the US and European Union. So having heard from Cici, I think we could conclude that for Taiwan, staying competitive means not just making the best products, but making them responsibly according to international standards. Thank you for listening in. And if you enjoyed the show, please leave us a review or drop us an email. We'd love to hear from you. Please visit the CommonWealth English website to read more coverage on Taiwan's migrant workers. The next episode will be available November 25th. Follow us wherever you get your podcasts, and talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.